From Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, this is TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones. And AJ, it is, if my watch will pop up, and it won't. I think it's
104.
Well, I was going to say 105.
104. Baby.
I guess my Apple Watch is dead because it's past 1 o'clock now, which
104.
104 a.m. Eastern time here in Kenan Stadium. And AJ, we're here following North Carolina's 41-31 victory over 25th ranked Miami on this very turf right here. And the first thing I'm going to say, because I got to get this off my chest, I think that was the longest football game I've ever watched. You told me, and I had a couple people in the media as you fixed your credential. We got a little screen up here where we can actually see ourselves now.
It gets all messed up.
It's all right. I know the people. He's keeping the people entertained right now.
This and look like Tucker. It's going to be homage to Tucker. Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace, Tucker, man.
How to get it fixed now.
Living legend. Well, it's the thing. It's like a mirror we're looking at, so it doesn't really turn the way you think
now
it's turning.
I see what you guys see, which is really unfortunate. You just block out this half.
Yeah, literally.
That half.
You just need blackout.
It's all reversed.
Just need to black out the face is what we need to do. But AJ,
yeah,
you told me the Duke game against State. Duke ended up winning that game. Started 30 minutes before the Carolina game, ended 30 minutes before the Carolina game. I'm sure 21 penalties combined here on this field probably had something to do with that. But, it was just a very long game.
Those are the penalties that were accepted.
Yes.
There were a lot more flags. I was joking that the refs are going to have to ice their arms afterward, like some pitcher that throws 130 pitches.
It was crazy, man. By the way,
the scoring and...
Oh, yeah, it was just a long game in general. And I also witnessed the worst penalty call I've ever seen, the roughing the passer. Forgot who it got called in the first quarter, but they showed the replay. And I think it was K'Mon Rucker didn't even touch him. Yeah. I had to just throw that out there because it was legitimately one of the worst penalty calls I've ever seen. We'll dive into a little bit of review now.
Earned a lot.
Oh, yeah. 14 penalties.
We'll hit on that later.
Yeah, 14 penalties and still won by 10 points, so pretty impressive. AJ, we'll talk about, I want to start off with kind of complimentary football and kind of how Carolina came out after the halftime break. And that was something we were talking about on the way over here because that was the most impressive thing for me. We saw... Now, granted, we were talking about it on the way here, and I was kind of saying, but Miami had a couple of turnovers, and Carolina didn't necessarily capitalize on those turnovers. But you mentioned those turnovers were caused because the defense came out flying, and they were so aggressive, and they made Miami get into uncomfortable situations, made Tyler Van Dyke get into these uncomfortable situations, ends up turning the ball over. But what we saw in that third quarter, outscored them 24-0, that really sealed the game for North Carolina. And that was complimentary football on both sides of the ball once the offense kind of got it going after not necessarily taking advantage of some of those early turnovers. That's what a very good football team can do. And that's what good football teams do in terms of putting opponents away. Now, Carolina didn't necessarily put Miami away because they let them not creep back into it, but stick around a little bit where, onside kick towards the end, but still won relatively comfortably at the end of the day. But let's start there and talk about it.
I think if the fourth quarter was a lifeline to Miami, Miami's hand is here and the lifeline's here. I think it was too far.
And the place kind of emptied out a little bit. Miami fans left.
Yeah, Carolina changed a little bit defensively, but we've talked a lot about adjustments, halftime adjustments or adjustments during the course of the game. A mature team can handle adjustments. A team that has confidence in its coaches is going to handle adjustments because they believe, the unbridled belief in what the coaches are telling them. So you have this combination of a bunch of older guys who have already been through the process of making adjustments this season and seeing it work on defense, that they win at halftime today. I'm sure there was some paint that was peeled off the walls a little bit for both sides of the ball. But the adjustments that Gene Chizik and the staff told those kids are like, okay, we got it. We know what to do. They come out in the second half. They were firing off the line of scrimmage. They were firing off the ball. Much more so I thought Miami was the more physical team in the first half. And I thought some of that got to Carolina. Some of those penalties, they were too amped up. They were trying to match the physicality in sort of a bad way. They got regrouped. They got all their bearings straight, and they came out in the second half, defensive line, firing off the ball. They were making the run fits. The safeties were making the run fits. Everybody was doing that. Other side of the ball, an offensive line that was struggling at times in the first half, firing off the snap. They were opening holes. And honestly, the way Omarion was running tonight, you didn't need to give him a whole lot. His vision and his decisiveness, Jacob.
No, he's fantastic.
He has gotten so much better, and they can use him in the passing game because he turns the edge a lot better now. So both sides of the ball, man, they both said, okay, let's do this stuff differently. That crap's not working. little bit of whacking on there because they weren't playing that well, and they came out in the third quarter, and I asked Mac after the game, was this the best quarter of complimentary football your team's played since you came back? He said yes. And he also added a caveat. We played some pretty good football this year. That was it. That's the number one run defense in the country.
Yeah.
And they couldn't stop Omarion in the third quarter. That's one of the top defenses overall in the country with some NFL guys in the secondary, and they couldn't track Tez Walker. Drake was hitting what he needed to hit. 24-0 in the quarter, 182-32 in total yardage. That was the difference in the game. This team, in spite of so many things that didn't do well tonight, can be so dominant in a period of time against a good football team that you just wonder if they start adding more of this stuff together. They did against Syracuse last week, but I think Syracuse is, as the great Brent Friedlander said a couple weeks ago, they're a freaking fraud. So they showed that again today. Today was a test. Today was a test of a team that lined up on the field, had similar dudes, and it was also a club that I think had shed how last week ended early on today. Kudos to them for that, although they're not a very well-coached team. I think Carolina certainly gets the box checked there. But they adjusted, and they played great complimentary football. It was really a pleasure to watch a team that didn't play complimentary football too much the last 4 years. On occasions they did. But, when the offense is going, the defense can't stop anybody.
Yeah, that's been the theme,
You talk
man.
about that
I talk about it all the time.
And then when the offense would struggle, the defense was just, they would actually play well at those times. So this is a good football team. And you saw in the third quarter tonight a football team that, at least for those 15 minutes, could hang with anybody in the country and be in an advantageous situation versus anybody in the country. Now, the other three quarters got a lot of issues, but when you have that kind of period, and this coach, I did a drop this week about how they coach them as if they lost. It's going to be no problem at all for them to find a lot of stuff tomorrow, but they're also going to carve out that third quarter and say, that's who you guys can be. And you need to be that team moving forward if you're going to reach your goals. And I tell you, the goals of this team are pretty significant, and they extend beyond the ACC. And the team in the third quarter tonight was a club that can have some success beyond the ACC.
You mentioned it. I just want to stay on this for 1 second. Penalties, and you talked about it for a second. What'd you make of the penalties? 14 penalties, 9 in the first half. I think it set some kind of record. I do agree with what you said earlier. It felt like Carolina, if anything, just came out a little bit too aggressive and a little bit too fired up, and that led to being undisciplined.
Miami. Cedric said tonight that Miami will kind of goat you into that a little bit. They'll chirp.
Yeah, for sure.
They chirp out there, so you're going to match the chirping. I thought the Tar Heels came out really amped up. I wasn't surprised by some early penalties. I wasn't surprised by a lack of discipline. Sometimes it happens. You overplay on a couple of pass plays.
Yeah, for sure.
Tayon Holloway fell down a couple of times. I don't know if that was just him falling down or maybe he overplayed the initial part of that route because he's too amped up. That happens. But eventually it got to the point where it was just bad discipline.
Yeah,
it was stupid football at times. Some of the penalties that they gave them, extending drives and hurting their own drives, and then, of course, one, I'm messing up this thing again here. This is great. People are going to watch this to see what this looks like at the end of the video.
We'll blame it on the wind.
Well, the one that Miami didn't take, they should have taken over here, right near where we're standing, on a holding call. Should have made them. They were like third and 30.
Yeah, it was something crazy.
Second and 30.
They didn't take the penalty. It was weird.
And the next play, Tez scores a touchdown. I think Carolina would have run a different play.
Yeah.
So they were helped some by Miami doing Miami things today, but there's just a lot to clean up. The penalties, when you can have that many penalties and allow as many sacks as they did and as many quarterback hurries as they did and still win by 10 over that team, again, where's the ceiling? I tried to get a few of them to tell us how good they can be. And maybe they thought I was looking for a ceiling. I really wasn't looking for a ceiling. I just wanted to know what they said, and no ceiling. So look up. That's as high as this team. That's as good as this team could be, I think. I don't throw those kinds of words loosely. You know that I don't. But this is a good football team, and they're going to get better. Yeah,
we'll talk about that a little bit later too. Before we dive into the second thing here, AJ, quick word from our sponsor at Underdog Fantasy. Yes, guys, we are so excited to be partnered with Underdog fantasy. And we decided to partner with Underdog because it's the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and it's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry right now as well. And Underdog Fantasy has so much to offer, including their Pick'em game. And in Pick'em, you pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total in this week's game for a chance to win big. It's so easy to play. Just pick 2 to 5 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. And you can 20x your money by going just 5 for 5. They also have a Best Ball Mania. If you think you know football, you need to check this one out. This year's Best Ball Mania has $15 million in total prizes up for grabs, with the winner taking home $3 million. So sign up today with the promo code HEEL, HEEL, and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. And don't forget to register with that promo code HEEL to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms do apply. And if you're concerned with your play, call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ncpgambling.org. Back to the show. Big thank you to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this show. All right, AJ's moving on to the second thing I want to talk about. We kind of have to talk about them. There's always somebody, it feels like, in any game you watch that you just kind of have to talk about when you do these review shows.
Star power team.
Exactly, man. And they had 2 stars today on offense in particular. Cedric Gray. Oh, excuse me, not Cedric Gray. I'm blanking out. We were just talking about Cedric Gray. Excuse me. Penalty on the play. That's a penalty for me.
Before you do that, very quickly, I got to throw a shout out to Cedric.
He was top of mind because we were talking about him on the way over.
I said, what's it about Miami? And he said his mom was telling him before the game today, you always play well against Miami. So I don't know how. I did meet his mom last week.
Oh, that's awesome.
A little bit of how she sounds, but she told me he always plays well because 2 years ago in this stadium, Tyler Van Dyke's coming out party set had 2 interceptions, had the big pick to kind of end that game. Last year he gets 13 tackles down in Miami. Today he gets a fumble recovery. He gets the interception. And honestly, guys, if you want to see the epitome of sideline to sideline linebacker play, 33.
That is, man.
He's so good.
He's so good. And he does a lot of things off the field, too, that people don't see in terms of he meets with the defense where they go out and kind of rah-rahs them up before every drive.
He checks literally every box.
He's a leader.
I'm pushing my drops, so I'm going to push this drop. A couple weeks ago, I did a Cedric Gray needs more love. And guys, his videos, when we post them on YouTube, should get the same number of views that Drake Mays gets.
He's that good, yeah.
Because he's as good on defense as Drake is on offense.
And he's as important as Drake is to this team. He's massive.
In that sense, he's just unbelievable. And it's not even just in the stats. Even if he didn't get any tackles, he would still be arguably the most valuable player on the field on defense because he's so important. He's so good. He's an NFL linebacker playing here in Kenan Stadium this year. If he was in the NFL right now, he'd be getting 60 snaps a week.
He's fantastic.
He's going to start next year as a rookie wherever he goes, and you got him on the field here. Mm-hmm. He is up there. You think about the great defenses in the late 70s and early 80s with the studs they had all over the place that played for a long time in the NFL. Cedric is in that category.
Yeah, he's really good. Man. He's
so,
really good.
Guys, you got him for another at least 7 more games. Appreciate him.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I'm on the Cedric Gray
train.
Love train. People got to give him more love.
Yeah, come on, show him some love,
I'm going to keep pushing it.
Nah, yeah, you're 100% right. I'm glad we get to talk about him all because of my mistake.
He's an honest interview. So from a journalistic standpoint, love him because he tells you what's up.
You got to appreciate that for sure. Focusing on the 2 offensive guys that I tried to talk about and ended up talking about Cedric Gray, Omarion Hampton and Tez Walker. Those were the 2 guys from North Carolina tonight. Tez Walker, I believe it was 6 receptions. Bear with me, guys. 132 yards, 3 touchdowns. So only 6 catches, 3 of those being touchdowns. Omarion Hampton, I believe 197 rushing yards. Can't remember how many touchdowns he had.
He had a 20-yard run.
And those guys were the big play potential that we have been talking about a little bit. We saw what we expected a little bit out of Tez in terms of taking the top off defenses. The 3rd touchdown he scored, he had no business scoring that. I mean, he blew away from those 2 or 3 Miami defenders. I mean, a lot of guys do not get into the end zone on that play. And then Omarion Hampton, too. You talked about hitting gaps today, shedding blockers, and just looking really, really impressive. I think it's his most impressive game that we've seen because one thing we have talked about, we talked about it after the App State game, is really good game, but we need to see it against P5 opponents. We need to see a little bit more. Tonight he did it again against the best rushing defense in the country coming into it. So major credit to those 2 guys. I thought they were absolutely fantastic.
I'm adjusting it. Okay, so Brandon P. and I are sitting next to each other in the press box, and there was a short little swing pass over to Tez on that side of the field right in front of the Miami bench.
I remember that play.
He picked up like 7 or 8 yards. But the thing that we marveled at was the instant giddy up. Mm-hmm. I mean, instant giddy up. It's not like catch, set, run. He's just, it's all one motion. when you see guys that have next level talent and it pops, that's what you see with Tez. He is really talented, and we're going to learn more about his game as we continue on through the season because this was just his second game. But you can see the Tez-Omarion effect out there. Drake talked about it. Mac talked about it a little bit, but Drake talked about it tonight where, look, when Tez is on the field, your safeties have to keep an eye on him. So when you're running in between the tackles and you're running with Omarion, the safeties might be a little late making their fits because they got to keep an eye on Tez. They have to be so uber aware of where he is. So that Chip Lindsey told us Monday, look, Tez being out there is going to help our run game. Everyone keeps talking about the pass game. It's going to help the run game. And Omarion running the ball the way he did is going to help the pass game. The complementary football of them, we're using that term a lot tonight, but the way they play off each other, it's like in basketball, having a great perimeter shooter, having a guy that could post, and a guy that can also post and pop out, and then you got a point guard in Drake, who is Ed Cota and Kendall Marshall and whatever people think Elliot Cadeau is going to be, just feeding them like crazy, and he's going to score some too. That's what they got. They've got a three-headed monster on offense now that is going to be there. And, oh, by the way, there's other dudes named McCollum and Jones and Nesbitt and Morales and Copenhaver who made a couple. Now that he's got the pad off, basically, he's making more plays again. And the offensive line did better in the second half. They made some adjustments up front. And there was this – I'm trying to think of what play it was. It may have been Tez's run play. Willie Lampkin was 30 yards downfield.
He's fun to watch.
And one of the first plays of the game on offense, it was the run was stopped. The only guy in blue that went past the line of scrimmage that wasn't a wide receiver was number 53, and he blocked this guy like 6 yards down the field. It's like, you know what? C-53, just run behind him.
He's fun to watch, man.
God, he's so good.
Yeah. He plays so aggressively, too.
So this is the best. Like I say, it's the best they've been at running backs. It's the best they've been since Javonte and Michael, obviously. But Tez is a different element than what they've had at receiver. It's a different element. So, as good as De'Ami Brown was, I think Tez is probably better.
He reminds me of De'Ami, but I do agree. I think Tez's ceiling might be a little bit higher.
I think Tez, because De'Ami was great on the fly.
Yeah, vertical. He was. Yeah.
Tez could catch something going this way and immediately go that way without breaking stride. He's in the end zone.
Yeah.
There's just a little bit of a different gear, different level there. They have that now. And that was a big part of the third quarter. And Omarion, by the way, had 7 runs of 10 or more yards. 10 runs of 7 or more yards. He only carried the ball like 22 times.
No, man. I think he averaged like 9-point-something yards per carry. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. And he was fantastic.
I have to go back and absorb the stats and stuff, too, and they'll be in all of our reports and whatnot. But, man, they're a good team.
We're going to talk about that next, AJ.
They're a good team.
We're going to talk about that next. Yeah,
because I'll gather my thoughts because I don't want to overplay it because they still did a lot of ugly stuff.
Of course, yeah. 14 penalties. I'm going to keep referring to that. I mean, it was hard to watch.
Just that. I thought they were getting beat at the line of scrimmage in the first half.
Agreed. I didn't think Carolina was great in the first half.
Okay, I originally wrote for the third quarter that first drive, and then the second I said, and Brandon will tell you this, I went ahead and erased it, or deleted it because I had something else to instead because they did the whole quarter. I thought that Carolina came out to start the third quarter. They took the physicality back.
Yeah.
Miami was the more physical team the first half. Okay, it didn't cost Carolina, and they made the adjustments. I was thinking one of the things that someone would say today when I asked them what were the adjustments made, we got came out to be more physical. But I think with them, it's the technique, it's the scheme, it's whatever they change with the blocking scheme, it's whatever they change defensively with playing their gaps. You have to be more physical to do those things. So people say, the most talent football wins. That's not true. You've got to have the right scheme, the right plan, then you have to execute it. And then if you do that, your talent takes over, and you have a third quarter like North Carolina did. So they were more physical. They took the physicality back in the third quarter. I thought that was impressive because we still wondered a little bit just how physical this group is. And they played against a team that prides itself on popping off. And Carolina was a club that popped off in the second half. So they matched it and then exceeded it. So, again, another check.
Yeah,
a lot of checks.
They're improving, and again, like we're going to talk about in a second, there's still a lot of areas they can get a lot better in. Last thing we're going to talk about, as we always tend to do on these three things, what this means for the Tar Heels. 6-0. Yep. Virginia at home up next, who I know you've said is, I don't even know if probably is the right word. We could probably, they're the worst team in the league. I would, on paper, right? I mean, based on what we've seen.
But they've been competitive. They won. They're coming off a win at an open date, so they're going to feel as good as they have in a long time.
Yeah.
They're going to be focused and ready to play, and this will be a test for Carolina, how they respect opponents. Max said they didn't have a great practice Wednesday. You got to wonder, human nature, talk about that all the time, how the Carolina players perceived Miami because of the way that game ended last week. It was colossal meltdown. All aspects of the program contributed. So maybe that affected some of their mindset this week. Now they're going to have to get up for Virginia, a club that, quite frankly, has looked like crap most of the time.
Yeah,
they have quarterback issues. They got everything issues. They've just been really bad. It's kind of a shame to see UVA playing this.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It can be a really fun game to watch, and we've seen some classics here.
We've seen some great ones
Stadium,
here.
You know what I mean?
And there are times it's been a great rivalry in the past, but I think it's going to be a test for, okay, coach them if they lost. That's good Sunday. Then they're up Monday. Then Tuesday maybe a little bit, but by Wednesday, what's Wednesday's practice like?
Yeah.
So if Matt comes in here next week and tells us after the game, well, we didn't have a great practice Wednesday, they've got to get them to respect UVA. That's the next layer. That's the next layer for this program.
It's looking good now.
It is looking pretty good.
It's looking pretty straight right there, man.
Yeah, I messed it up. You got to respect everybody. And now they're at a point where they're playing for something significant nationally. They're probably going to climb into the top 10 this week. So be a champion every week. Be a champion on Sunday, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the walkthrough. When you go to the hotel Friday night, be a champion. Lights out when lights are supposed to be out. They are now playing for something next level, something not many North Carolina teams have played for when you got to the middle of October. Certainly none have done this since 1997. So they have a lot of things that they can control moving forward as long as they prepare like a champion. They got to clean up a lot of stuff. The penalties tonight, you could say it's a one-off. I'll say it's a one-off until next week. If they start happening again, you gotta wonder.
Yeah, it's just a lot tonight, man, and it was undisciplined football, and that's what you don't want to see from a team that, again, is really heading in the right direction. Real quickly,
that's well coached and prides itself on dotting I's and crossing T's.
It was weird, even more weird tonight, because and I did think that at times in the first half it felt like, not to get on officiating, I just felt like it was over-called a little bit too much.
I saw your tweet, and I agree with you on that, because there are a couple times.
It's not play, you know?
I'm a believer that when the DB and the wide receiver are jostling, when the ball's in the air, let it play.
And it's football, man. If you
let it play.
I'm a firm. It's a football game. It's very physical. You could probably find a penalty on every play if you really wanted to. And that's
holding on every play.
And that's what it felt like. So not to harp on that, but I had to throw that in there too. But Virginia coming up in Chapel Hill. Got to prepare differently for that, but you have to stay up for that game.
It's the standard we talked about.
That's the standard, exactly.
Last week was the standard. Now the standard's going to be tested.
Yeah, and that's good for this team, I would say, right?
We got to point out one other area, an area that I think is a legitimate concern. Mac brought it up tonight. Special teams. Their kickoff coverage is bad.
And Ben Kiernan being out for the season, too, that's a big loss.
Yeah, well, I thought McGinnis did a nice job.
He did step in well tonight. We'll see if he continues.
I will say, when we talked to Tom McGinnis back in the spring, he said the plan for him was to just sit this year because he's learning American football. and before the game, he and Cole Maynard were out here kicking, and McGinnis looked pretty good. But it looked to me like Maynard was going to be the guy because Kiernan spent more time with him on the field during warm-up. So, but it's McGinnis, and I guess he's a rugby player, so if there's ever a breakdown and need the punter to make a tackle, he'll be able to make a tackle. But their kickoff coverage is not very good. They have some issues with the sky kick, the pooch kick, and the coverage just has to be better. There were a couple times it looked like, man, if there's one cut, they could take it.
That was a couple times tonight, yeah.
The house. So they got to get that fixed. And even the punch shield, there was a time in the first quarter back here where the offensive lineman had to sort of lunge, and McGinnis got it off. I thought for a second that was going to get blocked. I don't know. I always wonder why offensive linemen are part of the shield.
Yeah.
Because it's not a grinding moment; it's a reaction moment. You got to be able to get in the way. All you got to do is get in the way of the guy.
Yeah. So you're always trying to just get in the way.
So I don't know. They've been tweaking the shield this year. They had a different lineup out there tonight. We'll see if that changes as well, because that was a near miss right there.
Yeah. No, it definitely was. But looking at we're going to wrap it up here in a second, so we've been going a little bit long on this. So much to talk about. But
28 minutes last week.
I know, it's easy to do, man. We can sit here for an hour talking. The problem is it's, 1:45 in the morning, but it's fine. We do it for you guys. 1:28, excuse me. 1:28. Sorry, guys. I lied a little bit about that. But Virginia coming up. And you got a trip to Georgia Tech, was always a tricky team for North Carolina. But, again, we even talking about some things that happened today in the league. Louisville losing today, so Duke beating NC State. So in terms of Carolina kind of controlling its own destiny, for lack of a better word, and going into the rest of the season, they currently do that, obviously, with the Duke game, in some respects with the Duke game coming up. So Carolina finds itself in a good place, but like you talked about, I think the most interesting thing for everybody to pay attention to going into this week, we'll see it next Saturday, is how does this team prepare? We'll learn about it in the press conferences next week. I'm sure Mac will talk about it. And based on how they prepare, how do they perform against Virginia? Do they take Virginia seriously? Do they handle business? Or do they kind of invite them in and struggle a little bit? Again, that's the next step for this team.
I think their next 3 games are going to be challenges to the standard.
Yeah.
Okay, because this is an evolving program. Remember, we called last year a bridge to this year. Mm-hmm. This is an evolving program. This is a program that has an eye on what's happened in the past, because the whole point is fix all that stuff and you see what you see now. So now they've got 3 games coming up, games that they should win, games they'll be heavily favored in. Although I think Georgia Tech is very dangerous, they're kind of getting their program.
That's Carolina's bogey team, too.
They're getting their program traction back, and the bottom line is they won at Wake, they won at Miami, they were in position to win at Miami, they played Ole Miss tough for 3.5 quarters on the road. They're not going to be a pushover. So the standard that Mac wants for this program, for this team, and moving forward for the program is going to be the most important thing the next 3 weeks. If those kids marry themselves to that standard and they approach every day to that standard, they're not going to have any problems the next 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. If they aren't there yet, then they could have some issues, and that might then, they may win, but it might play itself out when Duke comes in here. Then they go to Clemson, they go to NC State. But look, this club should be 9-0 when Duke comes in here. They should be 10-0 when they go to Clemson. So we'll see. I think the standard, I'm going to judge them by the standard. What they say the standard is, what they say their mission is. Now that they're 6-0, we've seen them for half a regular season, and we know what they are. And you watch them, and you're like, okay, they're here, but there's like more notches for this group.
They can keep getting better, man.
We said it after Minnesota.
I think we said it after almost every game this year, besides maybe the Appalachian.
We called it a C+ game after Minnesota. They're going to turn the lights on.
I don't think that's ever happened in football. Basketball, plenty of times.
AJ's going to get lost going back up to the press box. We said C+ after Minnesota. I'm not going to give it a grade now, because I thought that there were a lot of things they did that were A+, and I thought there were some things they did that you just want to take out in the back and stomp on and throw away with the garbage.
Yeah. A lot of football left this season, but Carolina, not a lot of 6-0 teams in the country.
Enjoy Cedric.
Yeah. Enjoy Drake. Enjoy Tez. Enjoy those guys, yeah.
I have no personal vested interest in what Cedric does. I enjoy him. I like him. I've enjoyed covering him. He's an unbelievable player. He gives great interviews. You must watch his interviews, whether it's on our site or some other site. Just watch him.
Should be our site.
It should be our site, but appreciate him. Appreciate what you got here, because he's as good on that side of the ball as Drake is on offense. Drake gets all the love, and he should, because Drake's a superstar. Mm-hmm. But Cedric is a great football player. Appreciate him. Yeah.
Cedric Gray Appreciation Committee right here, AJ. We got a lot of love for Cedric Gray.
He has a new shirt. I
saw that shirt. Yep.
He came walking out. Nia.
Yeah.
Who was an intern with IC last year. She said, "Oh, he's got new merch."
You gotta love it, man.
He's wearing new merch. I got a picture. What the hell? That's the wind did that.
It is a bit windy out here.
I got a picture of it, but for some reason, I tried to tweet it out, and it wouldn't show up here. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, tweet that out if you find it.
Well, I can blow. No, that's not even hit. The Cedric pictures didn't even come out, did they?
No, it doesn't look like it.
I think my Cedric Gray photo didn't even work. If I tweeted Cedric Gray is up and with an Elijah Huzzy photo, it's because my phone stopped. I must have filled it up.
You might have to delete some stuff. We're to fill this video up.
I deleted stuff when I was walking this morning. Because I took like 600 pictures of the Pirates ballpark in Pittsburgh.
I bet you did, man. You better clear that out, man. I think we're going to run out of time on here, because I've got about a 29.5-minute recording limit on there, and we're at about 28.5 right now. So we got to get the heck out of here.
Zip it and toss it.
I'd love to sit here and talk it because we could talk a lot more. But again, AJ, we're going to go ahead and get the heck out of it as they turn the lights back on. Really appreciate
they don't
that.
want me to be lost here.
Yeah, they don't want you to get lost on the way up. 1:34 ETA. AJ will be up for another 5 or 6 hours. I'll be up for another couple hours working on post-game stuff. Check out our pregame video. I'll have an offensive highlights video coming out tomorrow as well. And obviously keep it locked to charliestrade.com for all your coverage and response. Is that the right word I'm thinking of?
I don't even know what the hell you were trying to say.
I don't know. Who cares?
I just know
it's too late for this, man.
Give Cedric more love.
Yeah, give Cedric. It's too late for this. Let's get out of here. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Big thank you to Underdog Fantasy. See you on the next one. Thanks.